Hopefully. Oops, there we go. Okay, we are live, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We're here today with Emily and the very awkward sleeper Mercedes behind her, who is one of our puppies in training. And so if you are joining us on Facebook Live, you can throw questions, etc., in the comment section. If you're joining us on Zoom, you can click the Q&A box, but just to make sure everything's working, feel free to hit the chat and tell us where you are watching from, and then we will kind of get going. We're just going to give people a second or two to log in here, and then we will kind of dive in to questions. Before that, it's my pleasure to introduce Emily and Mercedes, who is doing the silly sleep in the background here. So Emily, I'm going to start with the same question I give everyone. Tell us how you came to be part of the pets community.
So back in middle school, I had to do a project getting us ready for volunteer hours. So it was called a Pay It Forward project. And we chose to do it about pads. And we had a teacher who was an event sitter at the time. Her mom was an event sitter. And she brought in one of the dogs to the school and showed us all of it, everything it could do. And I was hooked. And then after the project finished, I started coming in on my Prody days or holiday breaks and started volunteering on the Burnaby campus. And then when I was old enough to raise, I put in an application, and rest is history.
The rest is history. And I remember that well, you coming in, and I was so impressed that I remember when I was in high school and had a Prody day, and it was an opportunity to sleep in or, be outside or whatever. But I was always so impressed that you would come in and just do whatever we needed in the office and stuff. It was super fun. And it was also very cool to see you pick up your first puppy once you turned 18. So with that, tell us a little bit about the puppies that you have raised. You've had something to celebrate recently. So tell us a little bit about all that.
So my first puppy was a Quince Rolo puppy from the Thanksgiving litter. That was Acorn. So Acorn just graduated as an AFD in a school setting. And so that was a really cool experience. Then my second puppy was Kiara from the Lion King litter. I got her a couple days after Acorn left to another raiser. And so she was a little bit of a hard puppy to have because I had Mr. Mellow Acorn. And then I had a spunky little puppy. And then we went into lockdown for COVID. So it was kind of give and take with her, getting to bond with her. But she ended up getting released. And we were so happy that she was released because she was just living her best life as a dog, and she found her forever home. So we were very happy for that. And then once Kiara found her home, Mercedes joined us almost 10 months ago now. And so she's been a very spunky puppy, and she takes on her dad's personality of vegan. So that explains a lot. And yeah, so each dog has been really different. I went from super calm to a little bit more spunky. And then Mercedes is she's kind of a little bit of both, but a little more on the spunky side. But yeah.
I always think it's hard for folks who have I shouldn't say an easy first puppy, but a calm first puppy, because they all bring their challenges. But I think when you have that zen for your first dog, they sort of spoil you for everything that comes after. But I always think it's somehow in a weird way easier if you have a hard puppy first. But I was the same. So yeah, my first puppy was very chill, very sweet. And then after that, I had a few wild children kind of thrown at me. So But all of that is very cool. So for those of you that have just joined us, we're here with puppy raiser Emily, probably one of our youngest puppy raisers. She started raising when she was 18 and she's now on her third dog. So if you're watching on Facebook, feel free to type questions in the comments and we will ask Emily. And I'm just trying to bring it up here without getting weird feedback. So and it's very strange because it is showing me people's names that there's comments, but they're not showing comments. Hang on one second. Bear with me just for a second, everybody, because I want to be able to see your questions. Oh, okay. All right. So far, just people saying hello. So that is great. Okay. So with that, tell us a little bit about what it's like to be a puppy raiser, and particularly what's been different. You raised Acorn before COVID, and then Kiara during COVID, and obviously Mercedes kind of during COVID. What's the same? What is different? And just a little bit about what the raising journey is like.
Yeah, so pre-COVID, I mean, Acorn was my first dog, so it's very much a fresh puppy raiser, just kind of getting my bearings, learning how to navigate the world with a dog now when I go to public places, and just kind of really brushing up on all of my skills and on learning how to handle a dog. And so I think with Acorn, I was very much, am I doing things right? And how am I going about it? And then when I got Kiara, I was like, okay, I'm a little more settled. I know what I'm doing. And then when COVID hit, we did take a break from CAPE access. So a lot of it was just being at home with her and trying to navigate still getting the training in as well as being stuck at home with her. So maybe I found it at times more of like treating her like a pet, but not really. We were still doing a lot of the training, just we were at home all the time. And now with Mercedes, I feel like we're kind of getting back into the swing of public access, navigating the world with a dog again. I think what hasn't changed throughout the whole process is just being able to be with the dog, but also recognizing the impact it has on other people around me. So Mercedes comes to work with me as well as goes to school with me, and same with Acorn. So even though people don't necessarily touch the dog or interact with the dog, just seeing people's faces as you walk by, that's always a good thing for me. I'm like, okay, so just that little smile or oh my goodness, they're so cute. Like that to me, I'm like, okay, so we're making someone stay, even though I might have just had the longest time with the dog, just trying to get her to do one thing. And I see that, I'm like, okay, maybe it's worth it.
That's very cool. There's a couple questions that have come up, and one you've sort of touched on, but I think it's a good question anyway. But tell us, Sarah's just asking how your confidence has grown as a raiser. What is that like going into dog number 3?
Yeah, so I mean, I was really young. I mean, I still am young, but like fresh with Acorn, I was a really young raiser. It was a little bit intimidating because we'd go to puppy classes or any PADS events, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I feel so out of place in a way. And so definitely Acorn was a good match because he was very mellow. And so he was able to kind of take me into things very slowly, and we could take our time and our pace. And so he was very good at making me feel confident around him because he wasn't barking, he wasn't doing some of those more challenging behaviors. So he definitely raised my confidence level. And now dog number 3, I'm way more confident in my abilities, but also as a person, I think I've grown with the dogs as well. So I'm more confident overall, but even just being a raiser too, I feel more confident in my ability, and I feel more connected with the PADS village as well. And I think that is a big thing for me, because at first I was a little bit more distant, a little more hesitant, didn't really feel like I had a place in a way. But as I've grown through these years and made connections with other raisers and sitters and people in the community, I feel like I've definitely grown in that sense of feeling connected with everyone.
Yeah, and it's interesting how all these things kind of dovetail. Lydia's just asking, what do your friends think of you being a puppy raiser? Because I think you've talked about how it feels weird to be out of place sometimes in terms of your age, but what does it feel like to be, the student with a dog at university or at work, or what is that like for you?
It's definitely, you can't miss me. I remember our last class of the semester, I had walked in late and everyone's like, oh, Mercedes is here. And I'm like, hi friends, I'm here too. So it's definitely like challenging navigating, like I'm with the dog, but the dog is definitely taking center stage. I think at work it's so beneficial. Everyone just kind of, it's a good icebreaker. I feel like the dogs are very good icebreakers. They want to connect with you. They're a little bit more outspoken and having that engagement. But at times there's the other piece that's like, oh my gosh, you have a cute puppy with you. And so it kind of creates a little bit of a challenge, but I think it's a balancing act of when is it a good time for me to bring the dog and when is it a good time for me to just be a person without a dog, a raiser without a dog.
Yeah, my very first puppy I raised while I was going to university. Well, actually my first two puppies. And it was, yeah, it was interesting because I don't think anybody knew my name, even my professors. I'm like, do you guys know my name? No. But yeah, Ruby and Maisie, everybody knew their names. And also, yeah, fluffy little golden retriever puppy on a university campus. You didn't get anywhere fast. So, but oh my goodness, so many questions. Tiff is asking a question. Is Mercedes a lacrosse fan? I feel like there's a story here.
Yeah, so Mercedes has not experienced lacrosse. Acorn experienced lacrosse. He came to provincials with us. He was at practices. He sometimes came to practices when I was coaching too. So it's a very interesting experience. Kiara experienced shutdown, so nothing happened there, but I feel like maybe we'll get back into it.
That sounds amazing. And really good distraction training. So sorry, I'm just scrolling through the comments to just see what other another question is, aside from the obvious, have you found much of a difference between raising a male versus a female puppy?
Yes. I think they all hit the teenage phase, but definitely a hormonal male was a very interesting process, one that I wasn't ready for because I've never had a male dog before, not let alone an intact male. And then with Kiara, when she went into heat, I can't have her in public when I'm at work or school, so she actually went off to a puppy sitter at the time. But it's definitely a different challenge because in my mind, then I'm thinking, okay, now I need to be a little bit more cautious because I don't know when that time's going to come, and then just also being a little bit more aware of male dogs around her too when she's off leash. So it's not super different. Just I think you're just got a different awareness when you've got a female versus male.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that was something that surprised me because I had grown up and I'd had mostly female dogs, and the only male I had was Bananas. And so I assumed that all female dogs were common, all male dogs were Bananas. And being with pets, I have learned that they, just like people, they are all individuals, and there actually is not a lot of gender specific traits in dogs. That's certainly the challenge that you talked about in terms of, teenage hormones and having to deal with heat cycles and things are definitely real concerns, etc. But yeah, it's interesting to kind of see because yeah, I laugh that Acorn was your chill dude and your two girls were your spicy ones. So because
Yep.
I would have come in saying I would like a female because all females are calm. But yeah, one of the greatness of the dog world. And the number of times I've heard people even say the opposite, right? Like I'd like male dog because I know male dogs are more common. Just tell us you want a calm dog. So Sarah says, I'm in awe of you, Emily, for all that you do. What would you say to other people to encourage them to be a volunteer puppy raiser for PADS?
That's a deep question. I would say if you're gonna be wanting to be a volunteer with PADS, just in general, I'd say the biggest thing is to reach out and make connections. I think oftentimes, like, our village is pretty big, and sometimes it can seem like you're maybe not connected, but I feel like when you make the first step to kind of engage with others, I think it opens up the door to build bigger connections. And I also think that it's a little bit intimidating at first. So I think going into it and kind of understanding the scope of what you're getting into is a really good thing to keep in mind. I didn't think I was going to be able to handle it, but yet here I am on dog number 3. So I definitely use the resources and sitters if you're going to be a raiser. And it's not a bad thing to use them. They're great. They're wonderful people. So definitely find your resources in the community and make the connections with people.
Yeah, I think that's such a vital part of being successful. And I'm really proud of our community for how they've kind of taken on as well. We have our community coaches now who kind of identified that that is a challenge, right? Like when people come in and they're brand new, that kind of making those connections are hard. So we've got this lovely group of folks that kind of reach out to new people and try to help connect them into the community and people with that have kind of been down the road a little bit. And yeah, it is that first puppy. Such a steep learning curve when you first come in and raise your first puppy, particularly either if you have no dog experience or if you do have dog experience, and then in some ways, sometimes having to like unlearn things and learn new methods and things like that. So now I know that you're the primary handler with your dogs, but you're not the only one that is involved with raising these puppies. So tell us a little bit about what your like personal kind of like village looks like around puppy raising.
Yeah, so I am most of the time with the dogs, but with my current work, there are restrictions on when I can take the dog to work. And then there are just times where I'm busy with school and work that I'm just like, you know what, this is not the time for me to bring the dog. So at home, I do have my mom who helps with the dogs. She'll help with the training, some public access, but she really is more of that like in-home support for me, and that's just kind of the way we've rolled. And she attends all the classes and everything, so she knows how to handle the dog and how to support the dog. But it's my it's my gig. I got her into it. She was just attached to me in the process.
Just did her
and
rubber.
then yeah, I had her sign the landlord slip there. Yeah, and then I also think major part is there's 2 major sitters that are within the community, so in the same city or just a neighboring city, who are our go-to for daytime sitting or weekend sitting. So we've got those connections that have built so that they can support me and raising the dogs. And also it's funny, they have maybe some of the stronger connections too. I can't even walk by, because one of the sitters is in our neighborhood. I can't even walk by her house without Mercedes knowing what's around the corner. So yeah, they're a huge part of raising the dogs as well.
That's fantastic. So for anybody watching that's thinking about becoming a puppy raiser or puppy raising, we are accepting applications again. We have more puppies coming this spring. Our puppies tend to come in waves because our girls all tend to cycle together. And so what we're doing kind of during this time that is nice and quiet for us is kind of preparing for that kind of next wave of puppies that is going to kind of come into training. And so if you're interested, you can check out pads.ca/volunteer. And there's all the information there about what is involved. Anything else you want to add, Emily, about being a puppy raiser? Anybody have any last minute questions? We've got a couple minutes left here. And so feel free to throw them in the comments on Facebook or in the Q&A box on Zoom if you're watching on Zoom. Anything else you want to add?
I think also, I mean, we always say like raise a puppy, change a life, but I think we really like hint on the growth that comes as a puppy raiser and doing this and I mean, I've grown up as a puppy raiser in my adult life with them, so it's kind of my world right now. So it's just cool to see the growth of where I started with Acorn and where I am at right now with Mercedes. And so I'd say if you're thinking about raising, even if you're just unsure, I don't think it hurts to reach out. And I think the most valuable experience does come from other puppy raisers and puppy sitters who are currently raising, because they'll tell you all the ins and outs. And as much as it's so cute to have a puppy, there are some ups and downs, but at the end of the day, I think it all evens out.
It does, it does. Well, let me just say congratulations on Acorn. That was very exciting. He is a very
Yeah,
special boy. I was
he is.
fortunate to have him a couple times while he was in advanced training, hang out with him, and he is one of a kind. So, and it's doing very cool work. So congratulations on Acorn and all the best with Mercedes. Thank you so much for taking time to kind of join us today and answer all of our fun and interesting questions. And hopefully Mercedes will get some lacrosse time soon. And, but take it easy, and thanks for joining us, Emily.
Thank you, Tara.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.